I should have deleted that message. I knew better. But instead, I sat there staring at it, rereading her name like it meant something again. Hey, long time. You popped into my head today. My thumb hovered over delete, but I didn't. I answered. I don't know why. Boredom? Curiosity? Or maybe some part of me wanted a break from the constant dullness of fine. Everything had been just fine in my life for so long, I didn't realize I was starving for something that felt like electricity. Her name was Elise. We hadn't talked in almost 10 years. We were never really close, just flirty classmates who never got timing right. Back then it was harmless. But now I had a ring in my drawer and a woman I thought I'd spend forever with. Thought. So I wrote back, hey. Funny timing. It started casual, messages here and there, a laugh about old classes, catching up on where we'd ended up. Then she asked if I was happy. Not directly, of course. It was some veiled thing like, is it everything you hoped it'd be? And I hesitated before answering. That hesitation, that was the start of everything. I told her about my job, my fiancé, our wedding plans, our fertility struggles. She listened like she knew how heavy it was to carry all that and still smile through dinner. And somehow I didn't feel guilty. Not yet. Elise said she'd always wondered what would have happened if we'd gone out back then. And there it was, the first hit of something I didn't know I missed. It wasn't physical. It was how she made me feel seen. Like someone remembered a version of me that wasn't so tired, so responsible, so expected. The first time I met her again was in a layover city I usually dreaded. She happened to be there for work, too. It wasn't planned, at least that's what I told myself. We had coffee. Nothing else. I told myself that too. But I went home with her laugh burned into my head. And when I looked at my fiancé that night, I felt a hollowness I couldn't name. The line was invisible at first. But each message, each phone call, each what if, it brought us closer to the edge. And one night I crossed it. I'm stuck in Denver overnight. Weather delay. That was the first real lie I ever told her. My fiancé. It felt like swallowing glass, and yet my voice didn't even shake when I said it. She just sighed, disappointed, told me to get some rest and text when I could. I told her I loved her. That was the second lie. Elise met me in the hotel lobby. No hugs. No declarations. Just that look. The one where someone sees through you, into you, and doesn't flinch. We went upstairs. I wish I could say I hesitated. I wish I could lie to myself and say it was some slow slide into inevitable mistakes. But the truth is, the moment the door shut, it wasn't a mistake. It was a decision. Everything was quiet after. She fell asleep on my chest like it was the most natural thing in the world, like we had always belonged there. And I just stared at the ceiling, hollowed out and high on guilt. I thought I would feel alive. Instead, I felt like I'd walked into a fire expecting warmth and only found ash. I told myself it was a one-time thing. A fluke. A collapse under the weight of too much. But when I got back home, I couldn't look at my fiancé without thinking of Elise's skin. Her breath. Her eyes watching me like I was still worth something. And yet, my fiancé kissed me that night like she always did. No hesitation. No suspicion. She ran her fingers through my hair and asked if I'd been okay. I almost confessed right then. I almost wanted her to know. I wanted to be caught. But I said yeah. Just tired, and turned off the light. From there, it didn't get easier. It got worse. Because it wasn't just sex with Elise, it was everything else. Her texts, her voice notes, her midnight calls. I'd check my phone at odd hours, lie about flights, about layovers, about dinner with crews I hadn't seen in months. I became someone who lived in the margins of his own life. Every moment was divided, before Elise or after. She started asking questions I didn't have the right to answer. Do you think about me when you're with her? Would you ever leave? I didn't answer. But I didn't tell her no either. I told myself I was buying time. Buying silence. But what I was really doing was losing the last of my soul in inches. Then came the text from Elise that changed everything. I told him. 4 words. Like a grenade with the pin pulled. Her husband knew. She had finally said it. And suddenly it was real. Tangible. Bigger than guilt. Bigger than denial. That same day, my fiancée came home with a folder of house listings, her eyes bright with hope. This one's perfect, she said, flipping it open, showing me a photo of a porch I'd never sit on. I nodded. I smiled. I felt the world cracking beneath us, and still, I smiled. That night, I looked at the woman I was supposed to love forever, and all I could think was, she has no idea she's already living with a ghost. It was a Tuesday morning when it all began to unravel, not with a fight, not with a dramatic revelation. Just silence. My fiancée stood in the kitchen, pouring coffee into 2 mugs like she always did. I sat at the table, my phone burning in my pocket. Elise had sent another message that morning. He left. I didn't stop him. I didn't reply. She handed me my cup and kissed my forehead like she'd done every morning for 4 years. And in that moment I wanted to tell her everything. I wanted to scream it. Break the silence, shatter the lie. But all I said was thanks. She smiled. You okay? You've been somewhere else lately. There was an opening. I could have confessed. I could have spared her months of deception. But instead I sipped the coffee and said, just tired. She touched my shoulder and went back to her emails. That's how betrayal works, quietly, methodically. Not all sins come with thunder. Over the next few weeks, Elise pulled away. Not angrily. Not even bitterly. Just slowly. Like she realized the man she had reached for wasn't coming with her. The affair didn't end with a fight. It died with absence. You're not leaving her, are you? She asked me once on a call I took in the car. I didn't answer. Right, she said, and hung up. And just like that she was gone. No more messages. No more phone calls. Silence, like a curtain finally closing on a scene that never should have played. But silence doesn't erase damage. It just hides it. I stayed. I pretended. I helped pick wedding flowers. Tasted cakes. Measured my smile in inches so she wouldn't see the cracks underneath. I wanted to be the man she believed in. God, I wanted that more than anything. But I wasn't him. Not anymore. It was her who brought it to light in the end. We were watching a movie, her head in my lap, when she paused the screen, looked up, and said, "You don't touch me anymore." My mouth opened, but there was no air behind the words. I froze. I'm not accusing, she said quickly. I just feel it. You're somewhere else. And then came the question I wasn't ready for. Is there someone else? I think part of her already knew. Or maybe she'd known for a while but was waiting to see if I'd be man enough to say it. I looked at her. Really looked at her. At the woman who loved me through every ugly version of myself, who planned a future with me, who trusted me blindly. And all I said was yes. She didn't cry. Not at first. She just nodded, stood up, and walked out of the room. She slept in the guest room that night. The silence in our house grew louder with every hour. I sat on the floor in the hallway, my back against the wall, listening to her cry behind a closed door, and I knew I'd broken something sacred. Not just trust. Not just love. But us. She didn't speak to me for 3 days. The silence between us became a living thing, curling around the walls of the house like fog. I still made coffee each morning out of habit, placing her cup beside mine like nothing had changed. She never touched it. On the 4th day, she came into the kitchen, sat down, and looked me in the eyes. Her voice was raw. How long? I swallowed. 6 months. She flinched like I'd hit her. With someone you knew? I nodded. Elise? Another nod. That broke her. She stood up and walked away, and I followed her because I had to, even if I didn't know what I'd say. In our bedroom, she turned to me with tears in her eyes, not screaming, not hysterical. Just heartbreak, bleeding slow. I knew something was wrong, she whispered. You were somewhere else for months. And I told myself, I told myself that it was stress. Work. The baby stuff. That maybe I'd done something wrong. You didn't, I said quickly. This wasn't about you. No, she shot back, sharp now. It was about you. And what you chose. You let me believe we were building a life together while you were, what? Splitting your soul in half? Lying to my face while I planned a future for both of us. Her voice cracked then. That was what wrecked me. Not the anger, but the pain. The betrayal behind her eyes. The betrayal I put there? I told her everything. Not because I wanted forgiveness, honestly, I didn't even believe I deserved it, but because she asked. And for once, I owed her the truth. She cried through most of it. Quietly. The kind of crying that sounds like grieving. When I finished, she just sat there, looking at the floor, her fingers knotted in her lap. I asked you once, she said slowly, if you'd ever cheat on me. You said you wouldn't. That it wasn't in your nature. I believed that at the time. That's the part that hurts, she said. That you meant it. That you were that man once. That night, she moved into her friend's apartment, saying she needed space. I didn't fight it. I couldn't. I stayed in the house alone, surrounded by photos of us smiling, laughing ghosts frozen in frames. I tried to erase Elise from my phone, but it didn't matter. The damage was done. Her absence didn't fix the betrayal. If anything, it made it worse. It made the affair feel like it had happened for nothing. No passion. No love. Just failure. Weakness. I started therapy the next week. I sat in a chair and tried to explain how a man with everything could ruin it all for a few moments of feeling seen. How I let emotional starvation lead me to emotional recklessness. The therapist didn't let me get away with excuses. Have you ever told your fiancé how disconnected you felt? She asked. No, I admitted. And Elise, did she give you something, or did you just not have the courage to ask your partner for what you needed? That one stuck with me. Because the truth is I didn't ask. I didn't fight. I just drifted, like a coward, into the arms of someone who offered something I didn't even name. I wrote my fiancée a letter that night. Not begging for forgiveness. Just telling her the truth, how sorry I was. How deeply I hated the man I became. How I wanted to do better, even if it wasn't with her. She read it. She didn't reply. But a few days later, she texted me, "I'm not saying I can forgive you. But I'm not sure I want to throw everything away yet either." I stared at that message for hours. There was still hope. Small, flickering. But hope. The next step? That would be the hardest. Facing who I was, who I'd hurt, and who I might still become. We met in a park. Neutral ground. Cold wind, hands in pockets, eyes that didn't quite meet. She'd picked the place public, quiet, safe. I sat on the bench first. She stayed standing a moment longer, like she wasn't sure if sitting down meant she was forgiving something she wasn't ready to. "You look tired," I said stupidly. She shrugged. "I haven't slept right since." We sat in silence for a while. Leaves scraped across the sidewalk. A dog barked somewhere behind us. Life continued, indifferent. "Why?" she finally asked, voice then. There it was. The question. The one I tried to answer 100 times in my head. "I don't know," I said. That's not an excuse. I just didn't stop myself. I felt disconnected. Empty. Like I was watching our life instead of living it. And then Elise showed up and she reminded me of who I used to be. Or maybe who I wanted to be again. "That's not a reason," she said quietly. "I know." She leaned forward, elbows on knees, eyes staring at the ground. "I used to be so sure of us," she said. "We were the solid couple. Everyone told me how lucky I was. And I felt that, you know? Even when things got hard. I never thought you'd be the one to ruin it." "I didn't plan it," I said. "I didn't ask if you did." She looked at me then, and I saw her eyes, not just filled with pain, but fatigue. Grief. Anger that had already burned out and left behind the heavier stuff. "Do you love her?" "No." "Did you ever?" I shook my head. It wasn't love. It was escape. It was selfish. She took that in like medicine that hurt going down. "And me? Do you still love me?" I nodded. "Yes. But I don't expect you to believe that." "I don't know if I do," she admitted. "I want to. But it's like everything that made us feel safe is gone. I look at you and I don't know if I see my future anymore. I just see the man who broke me." I didn't cry. I wanted to. But I didn't deserve the release. She stood up, hands shoved in her coat. "I don't know what I'm going to do. I need more time. I'll give you as much as you need." She nodded once. "I'm not saying yes. I'm not saying no. I just don't want to hate you. Not yet." That line, it wrecked me. She still had enough of us left to want not to hate me. And somehow that meant more than any apology I could offer. After she left, I sat on that bench another hour. I didn't look at my phone. I didn't scroll. I just sat there, for the first time in months, completely present in my pain. I started journaling that night. Therapy helped, but the page didn't look at me with disappointment. I wrote about the version of me I became and the one I wanted to find again. I wrote about trust, how fragile it is, how arrogant we are to think we can break it and put it back together without a scar. I didn't hear from her for a week after that. I didn't push. I gave her space. When she finally texted again, it was simple. "Would you be willing to do couples counseling with me?" Yes. God, yes. Because that message, that question, meant the door wasn't closed. Not completely. And maybe, just maybe, if I was brave enough this time, I could become someone worth forgiving. Couples therapy was harder than I expected. Not because of the therapist. She was calm, direct, disarming in the way people are when they've heard every story of betrayal and still manage to keep compassion in their voice. It was hard because I had to look at the woman I hurt, again and again, and explain why I did it without sounding like I was asking her to understand. Some days, I felt like I was begging her to keep looking at me at all. Our first session was mostly her talking. I stayed quiet, letting her pour it out, the devastation, the humiliation, the way she couldn't walk through the grocery store without thinking people might know, the way she second-guessed her own worth every time she looked in the mirror. "I'm not trying to punish you," she said that first day. "I just need to understand if I'm rebuilding something that still has a foundation." I remember squeezing the edge of the couch cushion, knuckles white. Because the truth was I didn't know. I didn't know if there was anything left underneath the ruin but guilt and wreckage. But I wanted to try. So I told her that. "I'm not here to win you back," I said. "I'm here to figure out how I became the man who did this and how to make sure I never do it again. Whether that's with you or not." That mattered to her. I saw it. A tiny shift in her eyes. Not forgiveness, but maybe trust in my intention. The therapist gave us homework. Reconnection, she called it. We were supposed to spend 1 hour a week just talking, no phones, no distractions, no logistics about groceries or bills or the wedding that would never happen. Just talking. The first time we tried, we sat across from each other at the dining room table. The same table where we used to laugh over takeout and dream about the kids we might never have. She asked me, "What scares you the most about us right now?" I told her the truth. That I'll do all this work and still lose you. She nodded. Same. Each week, the questions went deeper. What did you love about me in the beginning? When did you first notice us drifting? What's one moment you'd take back if you could? It wasn't easy. There were tears. Fights. Days she canceled a session last minute because she couldn't bear to look at me. Nights I caught myself hoping she wouldn't text back because if she let me go, I wouldn't have to face what I'd done every time she looked at me. But then there were moments. Moments where she laughed and it didn't feel forced. Moments where her hand brushed mine and didn't immediately retreat. Moments where we remembered who we were before everything cracked open. She said once, during a walk around the block, "I don't know if I can love you the same way again." And I told her, "I don't expect you to. I just hope maybe you'll find a new way." We started making new memories. Small ones. Quiet ones. Cooking dinner together again. Watching shows we never finished. Not pretending we were okay, but acting like maybe we could be one day. She moved back into the house 2 months later, but not into our room. That space stayed hers, a boundary I respected. It was strange sharing a home like that. Like being roommates with history. And still, there was progress. Not every day, but enough. There's a photo on our fridge, us, taken last year, before any of this happened. We look happy. We were happy. One night, she looked at it and said, "I want to be able to believe that guy still exists." I didn't answer. I just held her hand, quiet and still, knowing the only thing that would ever prove it was time. The first night she came back to her bed, she didn't say anything. No grand speech. No ceremony. She just slipped under the covers beside me, turned her back, and whispered, "Don't touch me. Just be here." So I was. I lay there, heart racing, staring at the ceiling like it had the answers I didn't. I didn't reach for her. I didn't beg for closeness. I just stayed. That became the rhythm. One night turned into 2, then a week, then a month. No intimacy. No kisses. But presence. Quiet, steady presence. And maybe that was more intimate than anything else. We learned to exist beside each other again without pretending to be whole. One morning, she rolled over and looked at me for a long time. I expected pain. Bitterness. But it was just tiredness. Human. Real. "You're not the same," she said softly. "I know. I don't hate you anymore." I nodded. "I'll take that." It wasn't a victory. It wasn't redemption. But it was movement forward, inch by inch. She still had triggers. So did I. Elise was long gone, blocked, erased. But memory has a cruel way of lingering. We'd be laughing over something dumb and suddenly her face would fall and she'd pull away. I never pushed. I let her breathe. She'd come back when she was ready. I stayed in therapy. She did too. We went together and separately. There was no finish line. Just layers to peel back. Old wounds to revisit. Expectations to unravel. One night, while cleaning out a drawer, she found the wedding bands. I heard her in the room, just standing there, holding the box. "We were going to be married by now," she said. "I know." She turned the ring over in her hand. "I wanted to throw this into the ocean." "You still can." She looked up. "You don't want to keep it? Hope for a second chance?" "I do. But not if it's not what you want. You deserve to choose freely." She didn't throw it away. She just closed the box and put it back. Time passed. Not neatly. Not in some linear arc of healing. It was messy. Circular. Some days we felt new. Some days I was the enemy again. But she started smiling more. Laughing more. One evening she reached for my hand while we were watching a movie and didn't let go the whole time. It sounds small. It wasn't. Months later, we stood at the shoreline during a trip to the coast, our first getaway since everything. She was barefoot in the sand, wind in her hair, and I saw her watching the waves like she was listening for something only she could hear. "I forgave you," she said suddenly. Not a question. Not a declaration. Just truth. I didn't speak. I just let it sit there between us. "I don't trust you completely yet," she added. "But I'm not waiting for the day you hurt me again." "That's a start." "It's more than I deserve," I said. She shook her head. "Maybe. But love was never about what we deserve. It's about what we choose. And I'm choosing to see if we can build something new. Not rebuild what we had. That's gone." "Then I'll meet you in the new," I said. "Every damn day." She smiled then, faint but real. "I don't know what our story becomes from here. Maybe we make it. Maybe we don't. But we're honest now. Raw, flawed, vulnerable, but honest. And for the first time in a long time, that feels like love. Not the easy kind. Not the fairy tale. The kind that scars. But still survives.